Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, we finally have a lot of news about what's coming in the Harbingers of Ruin badge. So we have a whole dev blog. So first things off, we're actually going to start it by watching the trailer, the new one that they just dropped. There you go. Very fancy music.
You remind me of him, Traveler. It's that same unwavering hope that led us straight into oblivion. And now, you're part of a war that you don't fully understand.
Lots of good images for thumbnails. I might have to ask to get this mix. It's pretty good.
I tried to warn you, to spare you, but his eyes are upon you now. There is no time left, no refuge, no hope. His harbingers are coming.
I think that looks great. Like I think that looks great. They did a really good job with the trailer this time. Like I'll be honest, I've been very critical towards the HG's trailers of the past because they've been kind of meh, but this one's been the first one where I've just been like, wow, yeah, I'm hyped. Obviously, it's copied a little bit from Path of Exile, but they know what they're doing, so why not copy the best, right? So evade. Essentially, evade just coming in, you can dodge. It makes melee builds a lot more playable, which is cool. And of course, just being able to dodge is really cool. Although, I wonder if there's actually going to be a dodge roll for, I wonder how, like, the bear is going to dodge. But yeah, we've already seen evade. It's, like, okay. There are going to be uniques about it and stuff, like cooldown for evade and stuff like that. That's actually kind of useful because you can turn evade into a useful skill this way. Or, you can summon a crab, I guess. All right. And then we got the Nemesis system. All right. So the way that the Nemesis system works is it's just going to be a bunch of big dudes here. Yeah, here you go. Here's better footage. Yeah, it's gonna be those forged soldiers, but they're gonna have a bunch of different abilities, much like in last Epoch style. It's gonna be one enemy that's colored a different way but has a bunch of different abilities, which is really cool, by the way. I really enjoy that. It's a very good way of utilizing assets and not having to make too much, which means they can make more content and stuff like that. But you're gonna fight these guys, and then you're gonna like put items inside of them, and those items are going to upgrade as you fight him more and more, up to 2 times. There's also this egg mechanic where you can actually put a unique inside of it, and I think it will either guarantee 1 LP or it will make it very easy to get 1 LP on those items. So like you can put it inside of it, so replace the unique item that lacks both legendary potential and Weaver's Will. You can put it inside there and then changes into a random unique or dropped or empowered when it does drop, but you can replace it to actually put a unique in there that has no LP. So like for instance, you could try putting a Ravenous Void in there and hope to get a 1 LP Ravenous Void in theory. Obviously it won't be that easy, but it'll be cool. But you'll have a bunch of options to be able to do that. I think you can only put in items or upgrade them twice, which is fine. Like that's good enough for me. And it'll allow you to either kill him or banish him so that you can go to the next one without having to fight him if his rewards kind of suck, which is cool. But yeah, I'm really excited for this. This will actually give us a reason to touch the I'll be honest with you, the mages with the experimental items are cool and all, but I really enjoyed this looks way better to me, in my opinion. It's something I'm gonna keep doing for hundreds and hundreds of hours. Now, one thing to note, he can put sealed affixes on items, and those sealed affixes can go to tier 6 and tier 7. So he is going to be the only way of getting a sealed T6 and T7 affix. In theory, the Nemesis can provide some of the strongest items we've ever seen in Last Epoch, if, of course, you're lucky enough. Obviously, you won't be like that, but in theory, he could give you some of the strongest items in Last Epoch if you kill him enough times. So that's going to be really cool. I really like that. Like, being able to like get stuff to 6 and 7, though, that means that you could have eventually, if for some miraculous reason, right, you could technically have a 35 ranked item. Like, that's ridiculous. But yeah, that's the Nemesis potential. It's really cool. I really like that. Now let's talk about the thing that we really care about, the Harbingers. So this is going to be its entire own faction that you can actually mess around with, as you can see here. It's literally just a faction you can go up. Now, the thing is if this is a faction you can join, right? There might be other factions that can fight against this one, or you can go up in. So you might actually be able to have different factions you can join in. So you can either be part of Forgotten Knights or another faction in the future, right? And you can choose between the two, and that will actually be really good for the economy in general, because there's going to be multiple different, there's going to be multiple different factions you can be a part of and drop items that are specific to that faction and sell off those factions, or get all the extra stuff like the, drop of envy and stuff like that, which we'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, the actual Harbingers are really cool. So the idea is you have to begin with, there will be a Harbinger in each of the 10 monolith zones. So all of the, monolith echoes, and you have to kill each one to gain access to the pinnacle boss. And I believe after you kill him, you can actually, you can then go to a different mono and just farm for the chance for the eyes, which then can be used to fight him again. So you just need to do all 10 timelines to unlock him, and then after that you can do whatever timeline you want. But this is going to add a little bit extra to the end game grind. You are going to have to actually go to all 10 of those timelines and actually kill all those Harbingers, and then this is going to be a little bit annoying because you have to actually build the corruption and the stability to get to those Harbingers and stuff like that, which is like whatever, because they're actually giving us ways of getting through the end game grind, which we'll talk about in a moment here. But yeah, so the pinnacle boss here his name's Aberoth. He's really cool. So essentially you fight him through all 4 eras of time, which is cool. They're actually utilizing the timeline stuff, and he gets different abilities based on what timeline he is in. So if you go through all 4, he'll have all of his abilities and stuff like that. But in Last Epoch style, they are making it so he has a bunch of variable abilities, and the Harbingers will also have variable abilities based on the monolith that you fight them in. So if you fight one in like the Rye timeline, he might get like a Rye attack or something like that, which is really cool, and it leads to a lot of variability on these bosses, which keeps them fresh, which for main game content is such a good idea, because it just keeping the content fresh is really just so good. I think it's a really good idea, and I'm really happy with how they're handling the Harbingers and the pinnacle bosses and stuff. But yeah. Now, there is a change to Boss DR, TLDR. It's being replaced with Boss Ward, or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really change the system at all. Like, it doesn't change how it punishes builds with like better DPS and all that. All it really does is it just changes how it's viewed and portrayed to the player. So instead of having this DR magically in the background, you can actually see it physically on enemies. It still will punish you for building DPS, as you will essentially essentially have to deal with 4 times the amount of HP on the boss instead of, the normal 100%. If you're playing like a worse build, obviously it would take longer, but still, it's like whatever. They're also nerfing, boss CC, which is good. I actually want them to nerf boss CC because it's really OP right now. Another cool thing that's coming in is Glyph of Envy. Glyph of Envy, essentially what it does is it destabilizes an item, so it removes all the stability on an item. It randomly changes that item other than that affix you upgraded. It'll change the base of the item, the affixes of the item, stuff like that. It's like a gigantic chaos rune of like Glyph of Chaos or whatever. And then it will give a bunch of stability to the last monolith that you did. And if it's a normal monolith, it will bring it to full. So when you have a new character, you can actually use Glyph of Envy to craft on an item to instantly pop out the timeline like the bosses for each monolith. So you can actually quickly get to empowered monos this way by only having to do the bosses, like the boss stuff and all that, which is great. And then that means after that, you just have to level, which is cool. Now, that's really cool, obviously. Another item that's coming is called the Harbinger's Needle. So the way that this works is it's an idol you can put on your character, rip to builds that have full idol sets, but whatever. It breaks when you kill a timeline boss above 90 corruption, and you get 3 additional Gaze of Orbis. So this is a way of actually speeding up your corruption. You just pop a bunch of these. Right now, 3 Gaze of Orbis is like 30 corruption or something like that. So you can do it like 40 corruption at a time. Pop, kill, pop, kill, pop, kill. And this could actually make it go way quicker in general. Now, you don't want to pop a bunch of them at once. That's because you remember Gaze of Orbis does decay. Like, it does get worse as you add more of it on there. So you want to use it when there's not as many Gazes of Orbis. And this will actually speed up your corruption grind very quickly. Although above 90 corruption is interesting because like it's gonna be a little. Oh yeah, that's actually base corruption. I'm stupid. Ignore me. But yeah, this is actually really cool though, because like I said, this will make it so you can actually, push corruption in other timelines very quickly if you've gathered a bunch of these Harbinger needles. But yeah, that's cool. Now there's some new uniques that are being shown off here. We can talk about them real quick. So Event Horizon, absolutely amazing unique. It's literally the way to make a unique, like a hammer actually usable. As you can see, the biggest line on it is just the 55% penetration against all resistance with melee damage. So there's a lot of builds in the game right now that can't get access to penetration, specifically stuff like, let's say like Maul Werebear, right? Can't get access to much penetration. So that's just a massive 55% more damage. When you use a melee attack and hit at least one enemy, you gain a stack of dilation. So whenever you hit an enemy, you get 1 stack, etc. 15% more melee damage per stack of dilation, but then 5% less attack and cast speed per stack of dilation. This is actually freaking insane for a lot of different one-punch builds. So like for instance, Maul Werebear specifically comes to mind. You don't really actually have much to do while you're waiting for your Maul off cooldown. As long as you stack enough attack and cast speed, you can actually keep up your swipe stacks while also still mauling on time, which is great. But you do get less movement speed as well. But if you use your evade, you actually lose all stacks of dilation. So when you're in a monolith, you can actually just constantly refresh your evade and ignore the dilation until you're on a boss. And then when you're on a boss, you can just like hold down the button and not evade unless you need to. And then bam, bam, bam. It will make it much easier to DPS down bosses with big hit builds. There's a lot of different builds that this benefits from. Like Smelter's Wrath specifically. Smelter's Wrath does not care about attack speed at all for the most part. You will have to hit the boss a bunch to get your stacks of dilation. And it seems like as though they might have a duration, but they might have a long duration, and this will actually make Smelter's Wrath specifically is going to be insane with this. Wall of Nothing is an interesting item. It just makes your endurance threshold added as Ward Decay Threshold. Ward Decay Threshold is not a very good stat right now in the current Last Epoch landscape. Essentially what it does is it sets your 0 of your ward at like at wherever it is. So like for instance, if you have 100 ward decay threshold, your 0 for your ward is 0 plus 100. So if you went to 100 ward, it would stop decaying, right? Now this could be interesting. The biggest problem with it is not many ward builds would rather build like this. They would rather utilize Frostbite Shackles for ward retention, but we'll see what happens in the next patch because there's a lot of balance in terms of ward that we'll see, so I don't know exactly. Aberoth's command is absolutely freaking bananas. You can completely ignore the Void Cleave stuff, right? Like obviously Void Cleave is instant and no longer a movement skill, cool. Void Cleave no longer has a weapon requirement, cool, which is really good for manifest weapon builds or stuff like that. So you can actually use Void Cleave on a build outside of, this is actually really good for those builds. But other than that, Ravaging Aura is created by Void Cleave, lasts an additional 8 seconds and have 40% Void Pen, makes Ravaging Aura into a usable build outside of using a two-handed weapon. Get a bunch of percent damage over time, which is a really good fucking stat stick, by the way. Increase area for area skills, which is another good stat stick, right? Overall, this item's actually really good outside of all these modifiers. Like, this is a very interesting item outside of the Ravaging Aura stuff because it's just a huge freaking stat stick. Now, like, you can obviously use it for the Ravaging Aura stuff, but there's a lot of different builds that can utilize these modifiers here. It's pretty crazy. Phase Point here. It's just a bunch of dodge stuff. Gain Dust Shroud on dodge. That's actually really good. That means the more dodge you get, the more glancing blow you get while you're in monoliths and stuff, which is cool. That allows you to have much more survival in monoliths. Also gives you a flat amount of dodge, which, not many builds can get that much easily without sacrificing HP, but it's on the quiver, and you can't get HP on the quiver, so it's actually the best place to get dodge flat. Unironically, you can get black arrows on dodge. This is useless. Like, you want to be able to control when you get your black arrows. I hate this line. Why can't they just make black arrows usable? Whatever. And then you get +1 void damage per Dust Shroud when using a black arrow. This is completely useless for the most part because getting that many Dust Shrouds is going to be really hard. There's only one way of getting that many Dust Shrouds, and that is specifically the Blast Rain stuff. But that's going to get nerfed into Oblivion, so it doesn't matter. Also, it doesn't really synergize well with this because you need a bunch of black arrows to, Blast Rain's a spammy attack playstyle. It wouldn't work really well with black arrows, so whatever. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There will be one more post after this one for quality of life. I'm actually very hyped. I thought that this patch was going to be what I call a throwaway patch, where like they kind of just don't put any content in it whatsoever other than the Harbinger bosses. But no, they're putting in way more than I thought. It's like they're putting in the Nemesis system, which like is like a whole cycle mechanic essentially, right? Obviously a very small one, but it's still good one considering the amount of items you can get from it. Essentially gambling in a way. And then the Harbingers is cool, but we're even getting a whole freaking thing, like a whole heart, like, look, we have a whole faction thing based on it. Look at this. Glyph of Envy drop chance, you get extra 8. Like, there's so many things that you get from this. Blessings are lucky. That's going to save a lot of people time. Like, that's insane. Yeah, overall, very exciting patch. A lot more exciting than I thought it was going to be. So I'm very hyped. Now, with all that being said, this has been Dread, off to go do something else. Bye.